This is Podcast Theory.
Hello again, fellow podcaster, and welcome back to Podcast Theory Live. I am your host, Jason Sircone. It is Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024, and today I'm going to take a few minutes to expand upon something I talked about in yesterday's installment of Podcast Theory Live. If you didn't check out that live stream or listen to the podcast replay, please take a moment after you get done today to go back and listen, because I shared 5 of the big takeaways that I took from the Empowered Podcasting Conference that I had the privilege of attending in Charlotte, North Carolina on June 28th through 30th. And one of the points that I did make, spoiler alert, is that Alex Sanfilippo, the founder of PodMatch, good friend of mine, had a tremendous presentation. And one of the points that he talked about is he I almost said delved into, like I'm ChatGPT or something, as he went through his presentation on thriving in the new era of content, was that consistency is key. And in keeping consistency front of mind, you also want to keep focus on making the main thing, or I should say the main thing, make it the only thing. And another way to say that, something that I've always tried to keep front of mind, sometimes it goes back a couple pegs, and I'm always happy to get reminders to bring it back to the forefront. It's The One Thing, a tremendous book. If you've never read The One Thing, Gary Keller and Jay Papasan talking about focusing in on the one thing that's going to make everything else unnecessary. And I think Alex's point was very poignant, especially for me, because I think that oftentimes in podcasting, we get lost in the minutia of everything that we're doing to bring these productions to the world. And sometimes we can lose focus on what's important. What are the main things that we should be keeping front of mind? And oftentimes that answer is different for everybody. And oftentimes it can get lost in what somebody else is doing, right? If you see somebody posting on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube that they just broke 1 million downloads, or their latest episode absolutely popped off, sometimes that can make you wonder why that's not happening to you. And when you start to venture down that path, that's when you start to lose focus on the main thing, on the one thing. So I was very happy to hear Alex snap that back into perspective and snap that back into focus for me. And I've been thinking a lot about this. What is my one thing? I know I've changed some things up recently. I don't want to say that my one thing is live streaming, but damn, is it hard to argue against that. Now, I would say live streaming, podcasting, for me, it's been a vehicle. My goal with Podcast Theory Live is to bring some insight, perspective, education, knowledge, label it as you will, to you in the Bomb Squad as a aspiring podcaster, as a seasoned podcaster that's looking for new ways to communicate with your audience, make genuine connections with peers and with audience members as well. My goal has always been to bring the best possible knowledge forward. With Let's Blow This Up, my other podcast, and Let's Blow This Up Live, the subsequent live stream that was born from that podcast, a lot of that is networking for me. I love making those genuine connections and meeting new people, hearing their stories, even if it's people that I've had in my circle for a number of years. Getting an opportunity to reconnect and have those powerful conversations, to me, this is why this medium is so powerful. And that's just my take on things. For you, it could be something completely different. Now, I know that when things get rough for me, I constantly go to that mindset. Why did I start doing this in the first place? I can tell you flat out, it was never about downloads. And that's something that a lot of people do get hung up on in this space. We've talked about it here on the show before. I know if you've been in my circle and my orbit for any period of time, you've more than likely heard a number of different rants that I've had about about the download dilemma or the download epidemic that we face in the podcast space. I am a firm believer that that is one of the metrics that throws so many people off course, and they end up walking away from their podcast well before they've made any significant breakthroughs. And that's so painful for me to see, because I know that when these podcasters got started, or even these live streamers, they may have had a tremendous idea and a ton of passion and excitement that was backing that idea and helping them push it forward and start bringing that content to the world. But somewhere along the line, they got thrown off by not enough downloads, not enough things coming in. They lost focus on their one thing, their main thing. Or maybe they never defined what that main thing should be or is going to be. Because I'm telling you, if you do define that early in the game, before you ever press record, before you ever put your first episode together, that's going to drive you, and keep you motivated even when times are slow. And that's one of the things that you have to make peace with, that in the beginning, while you're establishing your audience, while you're getting better at your craft, things are going to be a little slower than you'd like them to be. But if you keep your focus on that main thing and you stay consistent in the value that you are bringing to your audience, good things are going to happen. It just doesn't happen overnight. And if there's somebody out there saying it does, they're more than likely lying to you. Many, many, many people have succeeded and gotten to the top of the mountain, but oftentimes you don't see how that climb unfolded, and all of the struggles and all of the setbacks and all of the blood, sweat, and tears and time that went in to getting to that peak. You can't compare yourself to others because your journey is completely different from theirs. Again, we see a lot of this. Our world is filled with highlight reels. On a daily basis, you're going to social media and you're seeing somebody celebrating major victories. And sometimes you may wonder, when's that going to be me? How am I going to be able to get myself in that position? The answer is different for everybody, but I will say keeping your focus on the one thing, the main thing that made you start in the first place, is going to keep you motivated to get to that point. That may happen in a matter of months. It may take a matter of years. You know, in podcasting, we often hear about the big Joe Rogan success story and his $100 million payday that he got from Spotify. But what often gets lost in that story is that was probably, I don't know the exact timeline, but it was something like a 20-year journey for Joe Rogan, doing comedy at small clubs where probably just a few people were in attendance, working on his craft, getting better at telling stories and having those conversations, doing his podcast with just his friends in a basement setting before things really started to pop off for him. And once they did, he was able to reap the benefits of all of that hard work. You need to think about your journey in the exact same way. And trying to focus on a million things at once is a recipe for disaster. It's going to put you in a bad spot, and it's going to make you think things that aren't true. It will play tricks with your mind, and ultimately it's going to lead to your show pod fading. It's going to lead to you burning out. And you know, one of my goals is to eradicate pod fade. I want to see the podcasters of this world thrive and make their shows something truly special that change the game for not just their audience, but for them personally. I am a success story in that podcasting has changed my life in tremendous ways. The connections that I've got to make, the friendships that I've made that I was able to exploit and embellish and build upon this past weekend when I was at Empowered Podcasting. There is so much value in this medium, but you have to define what your main thing is, and you have to do everything you can to keep that main thing center stage so you can experience that success for yourself. When you define it in those terms, it makes things a lot easier and it makes things a lot more fun. because you're consistently focusing on the value that you're producing. You're not getting hung up on download metrics or somebody else's highlight reels. It's all about your value and everything that you are bringing to this world. I guarantee you, if you keep your focus there and you make the one thing in your podcasting journey the main thing, you are going to go far and you're going to experience success on your terms, not what somebody else deems a success, but what you deem a success. And if putting out a podcast a week that makes a tremendous impact on just one person is success in your book, congratulations, because that's all that matters. So that is going to do it for this installment of Podcast Theory Live. As I said, Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. We're just a couple days away from the 4th of July here in the United States. So on that note, I am going to take the rest of this week off. There's going to be no more new episodes, but you've got time traveling, maybe partying. I don't know what you're up to for the holiday, but take a jump back in the archives and check out some of the episodes that you may have missed from this new season of live content, or some of the great episodes from way back, even when the show was called Pod Theory. Lots for you to dig into, but I'll be back with a brand new installment of Podcast Theory Live starting on Monday, July 8th, 2024, and we'll try to get back on track with this 5 days a week production of Podcast Theory Live. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a loyal member of the Bomb Squad. I'm happy to be bringing you this content each and every weekday, except for this week. It's a holiday. We're going to take a little break. But until our paths cross again, this is Jason Sircone on Podcast Theory Live. Good talk. I will see you out there.